Hi, my name's Will, and welcome to today's edition of Getting to Know You. There are venue owners, and then there is Ben from Wellington's Valhalla. If running a venue that is essentially the haven for Kiwi rock, alternative, and heavy music in the capital city isn't enough, he also runs Valhalla Touring, responsible for bringing many of the world's biggest metal and hardcore acts to our shores. Bands like Napalm Death, Gorguts, Cattle Decapitation, Comeback Kid, Violence, Sacred Reich, Mayhem, Emperor, Vader, and Hate, to name but a few. The list is miles long. So who is this guy? Today's interviews will hopefully find out. Hello, Ben.
Oh, well,
I think you've just pushed mute on your microphone.
yeah, I just got that right.
Hi, Ben.
Hi. First thing is, when you tour bands, you don't have enough money to get a proper phone. So, so that's the first thing. But yeah. How's it going? Well, good to see you, bro.
Pretty good. We've known each other for a number of years now, but I don't know all that much about you beyond the sort of music scene. Could you tell me a little bit more about your childhood, where you grew up, and sort of like young Ben?
Young Ben. Wow, young Ben. Well, certainly born and bred from Wellington, Miramartian, which is a suburb of Miramar. And, went to a bunch of different schools, floated around. I suppose I only really kind of landed, I suppose, as most people do, kind of who they are when they're early teens, or is that tweens now? I don't know. 13, 14, and that would have been at Wellington High School, good music school, more like-minded kind of people. And yeah, kind of more kind of who you are, really. So lots of crazy music. I suppose that would have been early 90s. So grunge was doing its thing. And then obviously there's second wave black metal kind of turning up around then. The thrash scene, death metal scene, all those kind of extreme metal scenes were kind of probably at the, you could argue, one of their biggest stages, So as a teenager, you obviously are drawn to the more exciting things in life. Yeah, so I suppose my local surrounds kind of coloured me, and certainly going to Welly High is a pretty colourful school. And then I went to university, and then before you know it, I'm kind of managing a music venue or owning a music venue and touring a few bands and all that kind of stuff. Time goes quick.
Mm.
Yeah, you get different chapters of your life, and certainly current chapter is Valhalla.
So were you musical as a kid, or did you ever learn an instrument? Because I've never seen you ever play anything.
Yeah, you probably don't want to see me play the guitar. I think when I was 10, I was going to get a proper drum kit. But I was pretty disappointed, actually, on my birthday. I didn't get a drum kit. I don't know what I got, but I wasn't a drum kit. Getting Valhalla, I was like, you know what? I can actually practice the drums, because I own 4 drum kits, and I'm still appalling. Yeah, and of course, I think I've played the drums there 4 times in 10 years. I was going to go on every Sunday. So, yeah, I don't really play. I still play guitar, but it hasn't been in a band. It hasn't been a band that's performed, it hasn't been a band that's been on stage or anything like that. So, but, I can appreciate what people do. And, so yeah, I hum along.
Cool. All right. One of the most astonishing sides to you that I discovered just in a conversation at some point is that although you're a local hero to the music scene, watch out for that ego, you also have a doctorate. You are officially Dr. Ben Mulchin. So what did you get your doctorate in, and why did you decide to pursue that tertiary education?
Breaking Bad styles. So synthetic chemist. Yeah. So basically making bioactive compounds, stuff that you could put in your veins or put up your nose or swallow. But for good reasons, for good purposes. So they're all kind of, actually, most of the stuff I worked on was kind of quite nasty, like chemotherapies and stuff to kill malaria. Other stuff was more kind of enzymatic or bioactive, kind of almost biochemistry stuff. Even vaccines, that'll get the anti-vaxxers going. So yeah, I suppose I went through school. I did all the kind of the more fruity classes, the irony, and then went to university and kind of was like, well, I like mixing drinks. maybe that's where Valhalla came in later on. But yeah, so I thought, hey, chemistry's kind of hands-on. You still have to use a bit of your brain, but you can blow shit up. So blowing shit up's fun, and I blew up my fair few things of stuff. And before you know it, you kind of go into postgrad, and it's the only way to get a proper career out of, at least in that field, and science really, is to get a postgraduate, whether that be masters or PhD or whatever. So yeah, it kind of worked out all right. I mean, I could travel as well. That was a big bonus. Usually when you get your PhD, you do a postdoc or you travel overseas. So I went over to UK, went to England, did the same thing I did in New Zealand, drink beer, watch extremely noisy, nasty bands play in small, shitty venues, and live the dream. So that's pretty much what I did for about 3 years,
Right.
in the UK, which was awesome. And you get around Europe, obviously, and whatnot. So so I always kind of looked at, doing a PhD and doing that science stuff does take a lot of your time and effort and all that. But there's advantages of having a career, I suppose. And those advantages kind of branched into another career.
Yeah, it kind of brings me to the next question. So, like, after all that time and effort went into like getting a PhD and doing all that, which for most people would be, almost an impossible undertaking.
Waste of time.
How did you go from that sort of career path that was pretty much set up into sort of like running a venue?
Well, thankfully, both are a kind of a real. You can look at things academically or quite dry. So, I sort of approached the venue at the start a little bit like that, but of course that's not really the question. Is, I suppose, is why the hell did I jump ship? Well, I was doing sciencey stuff part time. I had a girlfriend at that time that was quite into sound mixing as kind of a bogan chick. That was kind of, I went away at her world, behind the scenes, teching, doing the actual job during the show. So I suppose I was a little bit idealist. I was like, hey, maybe we could do something together, bit of a family thing going on there. And I knew it was going to be, a kind of like a PhD, in the sense you really got to commit to it. And so I had to drop the science, if I really wanted to make the music stuff happen, especially touring bands and whatnot. I had to drop the science. It's probably a little bit irresponsible, being awake till 4 or 5 in the morning, and then getting up a few hours later, and you might potentially blow somebody up or put something on your skin that you're going to regret later on. So yeah, but also the chance to be your own boss, running your own ship to a degree. Science, you can do that, but you're just pushing paper, and you're not necessarily playing Breaking Bad. You're kind of the soprano in the background. I prefer to be the hitman, more the doer. Getting the shit done. So certainly a venue, you got to get shut down all the time. Something's always happening. So yeah, kind of suits me.
All right. So the last few years have been a bit messed up for the the music scene and venues and what, with the old COVID that I really like. I don't like bringing up in interviews because it's kind of a scratch record at this point. But you managed to make it all the way through. Was it brown trousers time at any point?
No, I'm not a fan of shitting myself. Pissing yourself is fine though. All for that, and I know many patrons at Valhalla that do end up pissing their pants, which is fine. So, but in all honesty, yeah, we are kind of out of COVID, but the trail is long, or the reach is long. The scar tissue is still there. We were kind of lucky / cheeky / grateful and fortunate that we do have such a passionate fan base. And I did that whole pay your bar tab forward. So if somebody wants to say, I want to pay a jug of Skippers $14 or $13, whatever, it's $13. I put the price up. They could essentially put it in a kind of a Kickstarter type thing, or GoFundMe, and then their name and their amount on their bar tab. is there. And of course, we were kind of lucky in the sense that a lot of people donated. You probably donated as well, didn't you, Will? Oh, I remember you down on the W's.
I think I did.
Yeah, and a lot of people were like, yeah, we know it says bar tab, but we just want to make sure you survive.
Mm.
Funny I say this, though, because I've actually just dipped into that money now. Whoa, which is what, 2 years later. And that's because it's back to normal. Shows are happening. Bigger shows are coming through. And certainly without that, there wouldn't be mayhem, wouldn't be possible. These kind of shows that are coming through now. It's like, yes, obviously you need money to do stuff then and now, but it actually, at least how I like to do it, is it ripples out and you soften bad months or, tours that perhaps didn't do as well as what you wanted. And so, so I was lucky with the GoFundMe stuff. Auntie Cindy was pretty kind to music venues. It wasn't necessarily direct money in the bank to pay a rent or landlord, but they were giving out grants to put in toilets or fans or kind of stuff that we'd kind of like to do in the ideal world, but we're never going to do it. And obviously in a pandemic, and when you're closed, you're never going to spend big money on, $30,000 on new amps. Yeah, like, whoa, come on. So we're kind of lucky in that regard. I think, obviously they were like, hey, if a lot of music venues fall over, then probably not going to come back.
All right, cool. So Valhalla Touring has been around for a while now. What sort of prompted you to start bringing in bands yourself?
I'm a sucker for punishment. So, there's a lot of bands that, and not just speaking like in the last 10 years as kind of like a venue guy or as a person in the industry or whatever, but obviously when you grow up and, well, if you just live in New Zealand, full stop, you see a lot of stuff. Going to Australia, sure, but you actually just see a lot of bands and shows and stuff you just dream about seeing. And so I was a little bit to make sure that some of those dreams for young New Zealanders could happen. And it's really just the bands that I wanted to see myself because deep down, I'm kind of like a selfish bastard. So I'm just like, oh, wow, that band, that's kind of cool. So I suppose it kicked off a little bit with an old promoter, Gareth Craze. He was doing Carcass Napalm Death at Valhalla 2014. And there were some of the good promoters like Chaos Promotions, Raj, Lee, Chrissy. They were doing some good stuff as well. And but there's some shows that we all wanted to do that weren't happening. So I was just like, you know what? We all want to do these things. Let's So basically, I just jumped in, and for the most part, it's been pretty cool and enjoyable, and privileged position and all that to see some bands, hang with some bands, see some behind the scenes stuff, work with people. It's funny though, because after a while you're just like, everybody kind of shit's the same. Everybody kind of has kids and daughters that drive to school listening to Taylor Swift. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to see that most people are just most big musicians and people that have written or pioneered techniques, written amazing albums, just kind of normal kind of people.
Cool. So speaking of bands, what do we have in store for 2023? There's a massive list.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm contractually allowed to tell you, Will. But certainly the ones promoting Comeback Kids in a few days. I don't know when this is going to get broadcast.
Probably later than a few days, but
yeah. So Comeback Kid, Mayhem, obviously end of January. Mayhem's come through a few times. Fortunately managed to host them previously, so that'll be a fun show. It'll be kind of like, it's a big show. Obviously, it's Mayhem, but there's a lot of different parts to it. And then you'll get kind of more like Violence, Sacred Right, old school thrash metal, Bay Area styles, couple of amps. Like, easy, bro. Good times. So we definitely got Sacred Right, Violence. We also have a band called Cruelty from Japan, which is kind of like, I like to call it sort of slow doom death, but some people call it hardcore now. So I don't know what's going on. But it's definitely that new sound of hardcore where it's so heavy and dense. there's a little bit of like local bands like Distant Fear, Grave Axis vibes to it, Soul Void, that kind of like, whew, you know what I mean? So definitely keep your windows down when you smoke your cigar listening to Cruelty. So that's first, second week of Feb. May, I think we've got Vader, and I think I'm supposed to announce another Polish band with them, Hate,
yeah.
old school Polish death metal band, and Die Disease, which is kind of more of a new style of metal. So yeah, that's kind of big. There's 14 Polish people running around. So I don't know how I got myself into that one, but yeah. So those are the kind of the main shows. I'm probably left out a few, and bands will jump up and down, but and then there'll be a little bit of a break. And I tell a lie. Nah, there's something else turned up now in first week of June. So Emperor. Yeah, there's Emperor as well. So
that's right, Emperor. Yeah.
That's right. Oh God, So that'll be another. That's a proper show. I think actually that'll be definitely the biggest show that I've done in terms of probably everything. To be honest, we're trying to get Ghost, but I don't know. We'll just see what happens. We'll see what happens. I'm not too keen on renting out Spark Arena. I kind of like being accessible and nimble. So we're not too sure about Ghost. Maybe leave a comment if you really want to see Ghost. There you go.
I was mostly excited about seeing Hate on the bill because I knew Vader was coming, but I didn't realize that Hate was supporting.
So how did you find out, Will?
On your Facebook page.
Does somebody update it without bloody... So Hate's supposed to be announced, but when you want to announce it's just like releasing an album. You do the press release, you do all the media, you do all the art. So that might have been snuck out a little bit. So yeah, we'll do the proper job on Hate. Because you want to hit that wave when it's at the top. There's so much to do. There's so much going on. I don't know. I suppose that sounds a bit egotistical, but certainly there's a lot of shows to spend money on now. I'm just like, hang on, settle down, mate.
Then again, like I remember when I was a teenager and maybe in my early 20s, there was fuck all.
That's right.
I think I saw like Metallica at the Logan Campbell, and that was like maybe the only gig that year. So I mean, having plenty of bands to go and see, I don't see as detrimental. Possibly financially risky on your side because everyone's got to pay for all these tickets.
Yeah.
But still, it's awesome what you do, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, man.
I'm sure lots of people really appreciate it, actually.
Oh, that's good. Buy a ticket. No, appreciate that. No, that's good, man. And it's not always about the attendance. It's actually a lot of the bands, I sell it to them. Hey, you're going to play in Alaska. You're going to play in Iceland. It's kind of like that. We're on a small, isolated little rock, the other side of the world. So, but the vibes are always good. And I've had one band who haven't really appreciated the, people are, generally happy and grateful that they've, come to New Zealand. So.
All right, Ben. Well, cheers for the chat tonight. You're a busy man, so I appreciate the chance to have a chat with you on camera.
No worries.
I may be seeing you in a few weeks.
Hey, let's drive Mayhem around together, eh?
I can hear all the terrifying stories.
Yeah, we can do another interview post Mayhem, eh?
Yeah, cool. If we survive. All right, mate. Thanks very much.
No worries, Will.
Cool.
Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks for watching.